Welcome back to Gamer Nerdz. I'm Sid. In this episode, we'll be talking about BioShock 2, which was released for PC, PS3, and 360. We once again return to Rapture, this time incarnating the role of a big daddy, searching relentlessly for his little sister Eleanor. At the offset of the game, a new antagonist is revealed in this underwater city, Sophia Lamb. But that's enough for me. Let's hear what the boys have to say.
Today, me and Voice are going to talk about, I guess, one of the most quote-unquote controversial multi-platform releases. This is the sequel to the 2007 Game of the Year, BioShock, which basically has a place in history as probably one of the best stories in terms of a first-person shooter, next to Half-Life. So when they talked about a sequel coming out, I first said the game didn't need a sequel. And after playing through it, both of us have said, we're kind of shocked by it. The game takes place about 10 years after the events of the first game. Andrew Ryan is still dead with a golf, club to the face. Rapture under the sea is still in ruin. There's a new villain, Dr. Lamb, and you play as a big daddy this time around. You wake up at the beginning of the game, after shooting yourself in the face, but somehow surviving, having these visions of your daughter, who was a little sister named Eleanor, and she's asking for your help. When I first started off, there was a lot of familiarity, and I wasn't feeling the story. But as the game progresses, and you get the history behind Andrew Ryan and Dr. Lamb and who Eleanor is, 2K Marlin, wow.
Yeah, honestly, when I first put the game in, I started playing it, I turned it off literally after 15 minutes. I was like, it started off super slow, and I was like, it feels like the same game. So at first I was like, whatever, and I went back and started playing Heavy Rain. And after beating that game, I came back and started playing BioShock. Once you really give it a shot and you start, you get further into the game, the story really picks up. I personally feel like this is a better story than the first one. It just grows on you, honestly, and it gets so big.
Like a barnacle. I
was so into the story. By the time I beat the game, I was like, ah!
Definitely a common theme you're going to hear about through this review is familiarity. You're visiting Rapture again. Still these underground tubes, city fills water. Everything about the game from gameplay to visuals, very similar to the first one, but they did a very, very good job at creating a new story, new protagonist. Audio diaries this time around. I actually listened to every single one because you have a lot of back and forth with Andrew Ryan and his, fight with Dr. Lamb.
Like you said, it's a great story. There is some stuff towards the end they try to talk about weird mind stuff, and you just like, right. Find all the audio diaries if you can. Listen to them because they really just give this story so much more life.
It's a really enveloping, engrossing story, and BioShock 3.
Let's get into the gameplay of BioShock 2. As he mentioned, one of the things you can notice about BioShock 2 is that it plays just about almost the same way as BioShock 1.
Just like the first one.
Super familiar. This is both good and bad. Bad in the sense that you start playing the game and you're like, is this like an expansion pack? But then, when you start really getting into it, you start noticing that there is a difference between this big daddy you're playing now and the character from the first game. You have the little drill arm.
It really is a continuation of everything of BioShock 1. It's an evolution of the first game. You still get plasmids, you still get gene tonics. There's an upgrade path. As a big daddy, you gotta look out these little sisters. The little sisters, they look cute and all until they pull out their huge needles and are sucking out Adam of a dead body.
The first game, killed Big Daddy, you had little sister, harvest or save her. That was it. This time around you save them and you go gather Adam from like dead bodies. So for each little sister you get to gather 2 bodies. You leave them there and then you have to protect them while all these splashes come after them. So you have to use all the tricks. By the end of the game you're using plasmids, turrets, this and that, and it's just chaos. Literally by the end of the game I wasn't even pressing a button. People were just dying.
Another thing that they modified, and I guess it's for the better, was the hacking in this game. In BioShock 1 you had this this cool water puzzle, but the game stopped, it was kind of, out of context. Now you have a hacking tool and you actually hack a machine on the fly. A little meter on the bottom, line it up with the green, which means successful, blue, you'll get a bonus, and red means a screw up. In certain scenarios where, you want help from mobile turrets, you want to hack, but you gotta manage this little bar with enemies flying after you. Good pacing, and it's a welcome change to the first game.
Sometimes when I had to confront enemies that were kind of tough, I would literally hack the system on purpose and fail it so that the bots, because the security bots come after you, and then you hack those, and then they're on your side, and then you're just a killing machine.
As for the first one, you can upgrade your weapons, upgrade your plasmids. By the end, you are a pretty formidable foe. The game will throw some pretty powerful enemies at you. I've played it through on hard difficulty. It's not as difficult as you think it is, so if you're a veteran of the first game, give it a shot on hard mode. Disable the Vita Chambers, and it's definitely a challenging game.
My only problem with this game is this camera you get, at one point in the game. Use it to investigate, gather research, which pretty much just helps you power up, you get new tonics. I didn't really like that. Honestly, every time you find a new enemy, you have to research them until like, you research them to the max.
This is the same guy who hated the planet scanning in Mass Effect 2. It did them all anyway. Again, an addition from the first game. They modified it to make it a bit more interesting. They'll gain more points if you take pictures of people doing interesting things than even video. If you can get a splicer to, light himself on fire, get caught by a security camera, and then headshot him, you get a lot of points. So be creative with the way you kill people. You can mix plasmids together, cyclone trap, and electricity. Overall, the gameplay evolution of the first one, but still engrossing. Maybe this time around, if you played BioShock 1, it's not impressive the second time around. The level design is still creative, the enemy design, the new brutes in particular. It's consistent with the BioShock universe. Compared to other games, it doesn't look as good. But I like the consistency, the color palette, the environments, the characters you meet. The frame rate holds up, and it's a pretty game, but you've seen it before.
I remember the first game you first saw the splicers, you're like, oh my god, these guys look kind of weird, it's kind of cool. The second time around, you're kind of like, they're kind of ugly. Because they really haven't really beefed up, the engine. And really, honestly, I don't even know if they even beefed up the engine graphically. It kind of looks exactly the same to me. But really, it's still, a good-looking game. You're not gonna really complain. They kept talking about how, like, this time around, you can go into the water. You can actually, venture into the ocean. Those are really small segments in the game.
There's no enemies in those portions.
There's.
You see sharks, swimming around and whales and stuff. It just felt, tacked on.
There are some new enemies, the brute splicers, that's what they're called, which are just like tough as nails until you learn how to bash them down. Then there's the big sisters. When you hear that scream and the game tells you to get ready for the fight, they're not f***ing around.
You're this, big, slow, hulking dude, and you got this,
Ninja Turtle.
this crazy ninja girl who's flying around, shooting fireballs. One of the strong points of the first game was the voice acting. Andrew Ryan, obviously he's dead in this game, but his voice actor is still there. Those audio diaries of him arguing with Dr. Lamb talking back at you over the mic system. The music in BioShock is set in the 50s and it has that old school vibe. Sound is top notch, absolutely.
I was just busy burning everyone inside and set them on fire to care about the music. I was like, music! Let's get into the content of BioShock 2. Obviously, there's the single-player mode, different difficulty settings. Within the game themselves, there are some, extra things
you can do.
There are choices. There are the video diaries, which you should find because they're very interesting. The most important inclusion this time around will be multiplayer, which you'll talk about.
Because you never bothered playing it. I was very worried when I first heard that 2K was adding multiplayer to BioShock. First of all, BioShock 1 was a game to me that didn't need a sequel, and certainly didn't need multiplayer. So when I actually played it, I was very pleasantly surprised. Here you have a first-person shooter, typical deathmatch scenario, with BioShock specifics. Everyone has plasmids, firearms, you can hack health machines so people blow up. As you kill someone, you can take a photo of their body to get a health bonus. You gain experience points a la Modern Warfare 2 to upgrade, new plasmids and gene tonics and weapon loadout. They made it feel like an actual addition to the game, not something that was tacked on for the sake of it, which a lot of us thought. There's been a recent DLC for new plasmids, new skins. There's going to be new levels coming soon. There's a pretty sizable community, and there's a reason to play it. So I would definitely give the multiplayer a shot.
I'll give it a shot sometime.
You should absolutely.
I'll start playing Battlefield first, too, though. Alright, so obviously, we mentioned BioShock 2, game you should definitely go pick up. I don't know why you look at me like that.
You call that a game? BioShock 2, I guess, is bigger in every single way. So voice here has the simple, Splicer edition. So here I have the Big Daddy edition, which is probably the most expensive, special edition I bought ever, but it comes with an actual vinyl with the music, oddly, from the first game. So if you have a vinyl player, listen to it. There's a really cool art book. It's almost 300 pages. Multiplayer skins, and it just looks nice. The first BioShock limited edition is very difficult to find. It's actually worth some money, so this probably will be someday as well. Some actually cool extras that I'm actually proud to buy, not like the other special editions, which are just, not special at all.
I don't need the big edition. I'm like a horse.
Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed the show. Feel free to leave your comments and feedback below, and please subscribe. See you next time on Gamer Nerds.
What does that even mean? It's the tofu of the gameplay? It wasn't even a joke, it's just a stupid statement.
That is...
God's sake, I can't work in these conditions anymore.
That is so the ending. What does that even mean?